Oh, welcome to Stopham Bridge and the old pub, the White Hart. Hard to believe this was the old main road, but I'm standing in the pub car park, call it what you like. And so far we got Daniel and Ian with us, but we found this old Bedford. Well, it needs a little bit of work, but it's quite nice. It's an O, isn't it, Ian?
I don't know, I just know it's a Bedford.
It looks like a Bedford O. They were ubiquitous after the war and into the 60s. Almost everybody had one. Claude Jeremiah Greengrass had one, for those of you who remember him, and Heartbeat. But you don't see too many of them just sitting in a car park. There you go. Well, with this lovely rose at the top there, I think this makes quite a nice view. We're looking over the Stopham Bridge now. There has been some difference of opinion as to when this bridge was built, but it's now generally accepted that it dates back the oldest parts to 1422. That's a great long time ago, that. I'm not sure which arch it was, I haven't been able to find that out, but in the Civil War, one of the arches was destroyed and replaced by a drawbridge. It's obviously been rebuilt since. But in the early 19th century, there was a move to try and make the rivers Rother and Arun a bit more navigable. And the Rother joins this river Arun down to the left as we're looking, round the corner. And they had locks and things there to make it navigable up to Midhurst. Here you see the centre arch is very different to the others, and that was altered in 1822 to make room for reasonable small craft to go upriver. It is incredible to think that this bridge was the main A283 from Brighton over towards Petworth. They had traffic lights in 1936, but it sustained quite a bit of damage in the war, and then afterwards it kept getting damaged by vehicles, and so in 1986 it was replaced by the modern bridge that you see behind it. Trouble is, the ground isn't very stable here, so there's 60-foot piles that go down into the sand rock below. But it's a lovely tranquil scene. And although maybe a bit pricey for some, it's probably worth coming out for a meal here, and you can sit, they've got some stage in here, and you can sit and have a meal by the riverbank. It's very nice, plenty of bird song, and we're going to go and take a walk out on the bridge in a minute. Well, we're a band of three today. Me, Ian and Daniel, but no matter. I'm walking in the middle of the road. I hope I don't get into trouble. But you can see some damage here. Whether that's been done by vehicles or not, or whether it's the passage of time, I don't know. But odd design, because it's almost like whoever's built it has built the other side in a diametrically opposite way to this one. I mean, look over here, you've got a triangular indent, and then look at this one. And I'm looking towards the sun. You see there? And then when you come up to the next one, the same thing again. And I wonder if it changes as we get over. But there's a new concrete bridge put up in the 1980s. I must say the Arun looks a lot different here to what it does down at Arundel. Just a nice, calm, meandering stream. Hard to believe we're standing on a piece of history here. going all the way back to 1422. There is a stone there. I thought it had some writing on it, but it hasn't. But there's not a vast flow here, but round that corner it opens out into a great big floodplain, and that's where the Rother comes through from Midhurst to join it. And when that floods, it floods. No two ways about it. Yeah, there's a tree there falling over. We're at the highest bit now. But that's interesting. I thought it was going to be odd way round, but you've got the one design of parapet this side, and I thought the opposite side was going to be a mirror image, but it's not. It's a different design. And when you look at the stones that have been used, it almost appears that you can see where the bridge has had to be repaired and altered over the years, because the types of stone are different. The only place where the bridge design changes is this last bit here, which is a triangular design. And the stone there matches the stone on the other side. I'm wondering if it's this side where the drawbridge was, you know. Why did they destroy an arch during the Civil War? Was the river bigger at that time? A lot of these rivers were still, even those days, a lot bigger. There are some mysteries on this bridge, but I'm not sure if that's Stopham Manor on the left. If it is, that's another listed building, and that goes back a fair length of time. But here's the main road stretching away in front of us. There's the A283, or at least it was until 1986. Interesting. Now, reading the blurb, parts of Stopham House go back to 1485. And Stopham was mentioned in the Domesday Book. That looks a bit derelict now, but that must have been an old gatehouse at one time. This was the home of the Bartletts, who are they've been baronets since the 19th century. Unfortunately, obviously we can't go in there and have a look, but again, an interesting old building if we had the chance to. But this is where the old road would have gone. Oh, that's always a sad sight. Although looking at that, you can see parts that are quite old, but they've been added to over the years. There's brickwork there that's fairly modern by comparison. I wonder what's going to happen to that. Then on the other side of the road you've got another older building. And lots of traffic. I'm just walking back over the bridge now. Gonna go back to the garden centre and have some lunch. I don't know whether I mentioned it before or not, but the bridge is ironstone, and that might well explain why it stood so well for so long.
So after lunch, we had to go on the South Downs Light Railway. I'd forgotten my camera, but thanks to Ian McGugan, we have some nice stills photographs. Don't take any notice of this one. I was just chatting to my fellow railwaymen. But shortly afterwards, we had our ride, and we were invited in to see the engine shed. Ian reckons it's only because I was a fellow railwayman, but I think they were very keen to show us anyway. This is a general view, and here's the chap giving us the guided tour. There are some interesting models here. This is a model of one of the very early steam locomotives, Lion. You may recognise it. And here is a lovely model of the Coronation. Look at the streamlining on that. Marvellous. Flying Scotsman, yes, in a rather broken down state. And there's the Royal Scot. Again, it needs a bit of work doing on it. A lot of these belong to private owners who just belong to the railway as volunteers. Some hand-built trucks in the small scale, don't they look good? And finally, the little diesel locomotive that they have for general maintenance work. Thanks, Ian.
Now we're walking up through this avenue of trees now towards the church at Stopham, and minding the thistles, we come here to the War Memorial. Lots of forget-me-nots in the grass. 1939 to 1940. 45, yes, of course. No disrespect intended. I didn't mean to make it a shorter war. Even a year would have been too much, but 6 years, oh, it's not something we can really comprehend. Just going to come round the other side. Charles Holden, William Holden.
Get a view of the church and the cross that you stand around there.
The name Charles Holden is very familiar to me. He was the architect behind a lot of London Transport's Art Deco buildings. But that's not the same Charles Holden. Interesting, I can't see any reference to World War I here. Though there must have been something here for World War I. This seems too old to be World War II.
Yeah.
Oh no, here we are. When I look a bit closer at the writing here, this side is inscribed for the Great War, 1914 to 18. So the Second World War was new scribing. Oh, that's all right. I thought it very strange. But we've got a nice view. Oh, I'm just going to see if I can get any brownie points here. Did you hear that pheasant? Oh. Well, half a brownie point really, because it's a George post box, and it is in script rather than capital letters, and it's George VI. So I'll have a brownie point for that, I think. I've got a thing about post boxes.
Yeah, I got a bit where it's funny, we saw that one down at Devil's Dyke, and it was in the farmyard. Really, really strange.
Yeah,
Why it was
yeah.
stuck in the farmyard, I do not know.
It might have been moved there.
Yeah, it could have been, but I mean, it's almost like the farm people have been the only people who know about it.
That might have been the box for that particular settlement. There might have been more buildings there, but a lot of the time, particularly with the newer estates, the post boxes can give you a clue as to roughly when they were built.
Right.
Because you've got Victoria to 1901,
Yep.
then you've got Edward the 7th, 1901 to 1910, I think. Then you had George V, 1910 to 1937.
Right.
Edward the 8th, 37 to 38, and then George the 6th, and then our Queen. I might have missed out somebody somewhere there, but well, here is a church, and it's built of ironstone. It actually dates back to possibly a mixture of Saxon and Norman origin, because it goes back to the 12th century, some parts of the 11th century. And it's only really had restoration work done on it since. Hopefully we can get inside. And because the stained glass windows here, all bar one, are original 13th century and 14th century windows.
Open down.
I think so, yeah.
Let's go take a look. Oh, look.
Birds get trapped in there.
This is what I like. Here's a Norman arch, if ever there was one. There you go. 12th century church. Oops, excuse me.
Tombstone book then.
We're allowed in, yes, the church was here at that time. Ooh. Wow, this is what I like. Now, this particular camera's not that good in low light, but this font has got some age to it. It wouldn't surprise me if this wasn't an original font. I can't find any writing as regards, but that looks like 12th century to me. Easily. Look at this decoration. Isn't that lovely? And this has a real smell to it. These stained glass windows date back to the 13th and 14th centuries. Now I'm confused because it's not quite what I read in the blurb that I studied before coming to the church. So what I'm going to do is I film these windows and then I'll go and read the blurb that I've just picked up from the church, and I'll do a voiceover. But
Well, you shouldn't listen to rumour, should you? Although it would seem from other research that there probably were those old stained glass windows here, there are certainly none anymore. This one is probably the most unique because it's painted, not stained, but it also uses a medium unknown to current glass artists. It was done by a man called Royland from the Netherlands, and if you were to look closely there, you would see right at the bottom a Tudor rose, which is his signature. And this was done in, I think, around early 17th century. So you're looking at 1600 to 1620, something like that. It was completely restored in 2015, and to save it from being destroyed by the elements, there's actually a plain glass window behind it there to protect it. Rather nice, isn't
on
it?
the side, I think that's the one that's a later edition. It was put in here later, but it goes back many, many years before it actually was installed.
Yes, this one in the east window represents the Bartlett or Bartlow heraldic shields. Excuse me. This arrived in 1638. I did say it goes back many, many years. It is thought that some of these were bought from the manor house and could well be 100 or 200 years older. But these three sections of the window itself were certainly recorded as being installed in 1638. And it's got a mixture of stained and painted glass, and I would guess that the colours that stand out more are probably the staining rather than the painting.
Lovely. Now, I've been learning a bit about stained glass. Modern stained glass, of course, you're using a lot of digital pigments and that, which mean you can make a colour that enhances itself when the light comes through. These people who made the original stained glass windows were masters of their art because they deliberately chose pigments knowing what would show up best against the colour next to it. That's why you've probably got a fair amount of blues and those dark reds and the yellows. They certainly knew their art in those days. And the nice little quarter foil at the top there. There. Nice.
I now know that all the windows are 19th century, apart from the Royland one and the Bartlett shields.
Oh, look at these steps. I wonder how many feet have trodden on these steps over the centuries. It's a bit dark in here, I'm afraid, but no, I think I've spoken of was it the Bartlow family years ago, who eventually became noblemen of the realm. Oh, look at this. That's got to be a little... Yes, look. Is the pedal on the right? Air-operated organ? Perhaps not. No. I see some electrical wire that's obviously been converted. There's supposed to be some brass work in here connected with the Bartlow family, but I can't see any. They're probably underneath the carpets.
Somebody said about carpets, didn't they?
And I'm not going to lift up the carpets to find out. But let's go and have a look and see if I can find something in the writing to tell us a little about what's what. I'm pleased to say I wasn't far out with the font. I thought it was 12th century, it's 13th century, and what's 100 years between friends? (1863) again. But I'm sure I read that these panels, although fitted here in the 19th century, actually do come from an earlier time. And looking at the we were talking about the brasses, the Bartlow family, and I said to Ian, I expect they're probably hidden underneath the carpet. So what does he do? He goes and pulls up the carpet, and there they are. Things in this church have been around for such a long time, and to be honest, they're all intermingled. Thank you, Ian, that's lovely. A lovely church, very damp smell, as befits all buildings of this type, but still very much in use, and I always think that's pleasing to see. Now, when you look at this door, It doesn't look like a particularly old door, even though the ironwork is fairly old. This is an old door. And this, hide that under my arm. This is for our friend Mark English. We've Bernie marked this one. Look at the size of that keyhole. You'd get a good look through that, wouldn't you? But I use a bit of humour, but all joking aside, this is a lovely church. And I don't know whether that building over there had any connection with it, but that's another old building years ago. That's got to be 15th century, surely, 15th, 16th. But you never find out about these places till you go and have a look. I bet Pete and Susie would be fascinated by some of the things they find here, the old tales from the tombstone. I'm not going to go much further. I think the weather's closing in again, so perhaps that's a good enough time to wend our way home. But over there, look, vineyards. We make some really good wine in this country now. Hops might be very little compared, but we certainly are doing very well with the wines. Ian and I have had a closer look at these buildings, and looking from the distance to start with, I thought, yeah, maybe 15th century are going into 16th and 17th. However, when you look at the brickwork, it's more like stone blocks. They look too new to be of that age, although some of the footworks appear to have a bit of age to them. And then you get that building at the far end. When you look at the position of the windows, you think, oh, that's got an age to it. And to be fair, the roof looks old. So have these houses been refurbished with more modern stonework at some time or another? Because this, I think these could be Horsham tiles on there, Horsham slate tiles. I'm not a builder, I wouldn't honestly know. But they have an age. They do have an age. It's a conundrum.
Yeah, I mean, they're certainly a size, isn't they?
You know,
some of them are big. They're cut to size. That one in the middle, down the bottom, is a big one. You've got a couple of short ones.
Yeah,
they're sort of like cut to weird shape and size.
Ian's right. It's like bespoke tiles.
Bottom one's a big
one. Yeah,
that side.
Very big tiles that side, and they get smaller
as they go up top.
As they go up top. That's interesting. But a nice mystery. If anybody has the answer to it, answers on a postcard, please. And with that, I think, because the weather, again, as I just said, it's beginning to turn again by the looks of it, perhaps that would be a good time as any to bid you farewell from our little trip to Stopham. And hope you've enjoyed having a look round. It's been very pleasant company today, Ian and Daniel, and I look forward to another get-together at some time. I haven't quite gone yet. Just before getting back in the car, Ian discovered this lovely farmhouse. And although it looks as though it's had a bit of restoration work on it, look at those chimneys. Now I should imagine the origins of that could well be 16th, 17th century. More like 17th century, I think. But again, those who know better than I, and I don't pretend to be an expert by any means, answers on a postcard, please. And with that, I'm going to say goodbye.